Yeah, we're rolling.
Are we rolling?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Welcome to John's Joint.
I'm gonna hover around your camera.
Zach is got his big butt in my face right now.
There you go.
So to preface this, I will say we all make mistakes. And so a couple weeks ago, I talked to my friend John Penokie here. And
Hi, John.
Hi.
yeah, welcome, John. And so John sat here with me, and my engineer Zach was not here. And so Lori filled in for engineer Zach. And as it turns out, John, me, did not have enough space on my phone to record this. Was not prepared. And so I got about 6 to 8 videos of John Penokie that were about 5 minutes long, which were nothing even close to what we talked about.
Which would be good to cut together for this.
There you go.
It would have, but
See,
so we're gonna start all over. John has figured out how to clear off the memory on his phone.
I had nothing to do with it.
It was a learning experience. I'm sending messages to Zach going, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. I'm trying to delete stuff and it's not freeing up any space, and all the stuff that I was deleting goes into the trash. But then you have to delete everything out of the trash to get it off your phone.
You know, old school on the computer where the trash can would just get big, but it would still be there. You gotta make it skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I love it.
And trying to make it skinny, I have nothing about.
Yeah, same. I think it was serendipity because like people only 5 minutes of me they can handle, so they're like, "This is it. You got 5 minutes, and then that's too much."
The camera was like,
"Yeah,
we did the 5."
So we will begin again. Welcome to John's Joint. My friend John Penokie is here today. Thankfully, very thankfully that you're here. I remember when I started off the last time, I will describe John Penokie as a friend, that people have friends. And
you have everyone.
And I don't think people take that seriously. I think a lot of people take it as acquaintances. And so if I'm stuck in a ditch, this is my famous saying, if I'm stuck in a ditch at 2:30 in the morning and I call one of those acquaintances, they're not going to pick up the phone. They probably won't even wake up to look at their phone. Whereas John would, whereas I would. And that's what a friend is. And they not only would take the call, they'll come out and help you. And that's what I consider a friend. So when I asked him, he came. And there you go. So I started off by saying, okay, John, let's start off with your childhood. Here's something, since I know this story, because I already did it already, John, I'm going to, and Zach's here. I am kind of cheating, but I want to throw this at Zach because it's funny to me because everybody goes, including Zach. Oh, my childhood. John's happy with his childhood.
You know, some people are.
So
I never said I wasn't happy with my childhood.
Huh.
I've just said that there are things getting older that I look back on that I understand, and I've said there are things that I misinterpreted too because I was so young. In fact, I just talked to Cheryl about this when we were doing ours. There are things that I thought, I wouldn't say fucked up my childhood, but like as a kid, you think, why are my parents doing this? Why are they doing this? Or whatever. And it's just because of the mindset you're in as a child. Whereas when I've gotten older, I'm like, oh, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was then. So I don't think I had a bad childhood. I just think that
it was misunderstood. Yeah. So where did you grow up?
I grew up way on the shore of Lake Superior up in the UP. At the bottom of the peninsula. Peninsula's a little thing that sticks up right at the bottom of it.
So way up north, eh?
Yeah, itty bitty.
He says, yeah.
Yeah, you betcha. Where everybody knows your business because the town is so small. My family also ran a business, so everybody knew my parents. And my dad also worked at the local plant as an engineer, so everybody knew who I was. I knew who nobody was.
So get this, Zach. Excuse me, banger over there.
Sorry.
So get this, Zach. Ask him what company his parents owned.
What company is it?
Penokie Electric.
No shit.
Which
No
was,
shit.
was Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Yes, Penokie Electric Radio Shack, because I worked there for several years. So we ran an electrical contracting business. My parents ran it out of their house. And then at one point, my brother, the closest brother to me, decided they wanted to run an electric Radio Shack business. So we started a Radio Shack business. So we actually had two businesses at the time. So when you answer the phone, Penokie Electric Radio Shack.
So you have 3 brothers, no sisters?
Yep, 3 brothers, no sisters. The oldest brother is almost 20 years older than me. The next in line, the guy who ran the Radio Shack, is 10 years older than me. So I am very much a like
You're the baby?
I am like an only baby.
Wasn't there a story you told that were you an accident or were you a
There was not quite an accident, but it was close. So I was supposed to be. I've told this.
Oh, he was
story.
supposed to be a girl.
Yes, I was supposed to be an adopted baby girl. Look, you can see it in the hair. I know it. So, they had 3 boys, and they're like, mom really wanted a girl, so they went on the path of adopting, right? Long journey with adopting, right? And along the way, I kind of came into the picture somewhere in that
In that
search.
process?
Yes. And then,
We want one more child.
yep,
Specifically, we want a girl.
yep.
I guess that's
So
what-
we're going to adopt, and we're this close,
Mhm.
And then,
and then John shows up.
yep, another boy.
All right, fine.
Notice he didn't say he has any sisters.
No sisters. No, all the, I guess they'd be grandkids of my parents are all boys, except there's one girl that stuck in.
No kidding.
Yep.
Is she spoiled?
Yes.
I would assume so.
Oh, yes.
Here's a side note to yours is my friend Ra,
Yeah.
his brother Bill. Ra has 5 kids, 7 kids total. 2 of those are twins. His brother Bill has 3 kids. 2 of those are twins.
Oh,
Isn't that weird that
Yeah.
both of them had twins? Anyways,
No, so I want to go back to something because the ditch story made me think about this, and I'm going to forget by the time we get back to that part. So we'll get to it later, but I work at Schneider. And one of the things I pride myself on is, much like you just mentioned, is if you guys need something, call me, right?
Mhm.
It's always been my case. I always answer the phone. I felt bad because about a month ago, I got a call at 2 a.m, and I should have known it was work, but it didn't come from a number that I recognize.
Yeah.
Normally, we have an operations center. They call us, so I have their number in. Well, it was coming from our automated system that I had never gotten a call from, so I didn't answer it. Well, it turns out in the middle of the night, they were trying to call me, and I felt bad the next day. I'm like, oh my God, sorry, guys. I didn't realize you should have called me again. Or Tammy, if you would have called me, I would have saw your name and went, oh,
yeah.
2 a.m, I wasn't really thinking clearly.
What do you expect? Computer generated,
Yeah, it was. Now that number's in my phone for the record. So slight tangent to the future, but
So
yes.
you grow up in the UP.
Yeah, little town, middle of nowhere.
How many people?
I have no idea. Like, probably like 4,000 maybe. I'm not sure.
Kind of
It's not very-
Seymourish?
I was gonna say
No.
Seymour's like 3.
It's going to be smaller than Seymour, maybe. I'm not sure.
Wow. So
There was 2 hours to get, or an hour and a half. Well, try that again. 30 minutes to go to a movie theater, fast food, pretty much any kind of mall-ish store, Walmart type thing, all 30 minutes away.
wow.
Geographical oddity.
It's a geographical oddity.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
So you grow up in this small town. It's 30 minutes to get to anywhere.
Pretty much.
And as you're growing up, and stop me if I'm forgetting anything we talked about before, but the first thing that popped into my head from before was the girlfriend. Was the girlfriend? Hold on, the girlfriend. But was the girlfriend? Was the girlfriend prior to walking the road to Schneider or after?
After.
Okay, so we got to back up. So
I met
you,
Amy in high school through
oh yeah, because you were
friends.
dating somebody else,
Yes.
and you met Amy. Amy,
Yes.
who lives in the same town?
Next door. I mean, they're 3 miles apart. So up there, you know. I mean,
3 miles, not 30.
yeah. So we met through mutual friends that were all, they got, my best friend talked me to go into 4-H because all our other friends were in it. So that's where I met more people, and Amy was one of those people at the time. In high school, she dated my best friend, right? We, all of us hung out all the time. And then when they broke up, we went on exactly one date to a dance. That didn't turn out so well.
Would you care to elaborate on that? Or?
You know,
No,
I was
no.
a jerk. She made the right choices.
Ah.
It just wasn't the right
I wouldn't have
time.
ended up with me either.
It is so true. It's like, good call. So that's back then. We had one kiss. I joke there's like 15 years between our first kiss and our second kiss.
Nice.
That's how disparate that was. But yeah, it was just one date. We were still friends afterwards, but just wasn't the right time.
So you go to college at the college up there, which
Yep.
was
Michigan Tech is where I went to college, where all 3 of my brothers went in one fashion or another. So that was kind of my dad's like, you're going to Michigan Tech. Like, oh, okay.
everybody else is going there. You're going there too.
You know, I
This
don't
is
know.
where we go.
This is where we
That's
go.
exactly what it was. Because I like, well, I'm going to apply to this other one just in case. He's like, you're going to Michigan Tech.
Guess
All
that's
right.
where I'm going.
Yep. And I started life as an electrical engineer because that's what the family did. Again, my dad was a plant electrician. We ran an electrical business. Logical choice in life. 2.5 years in, finally got to a real class. Studied harder in that class than I had at any point in my life, and still barely passed. I like got the lowest score of passing that you could get, and it was like, existential crisis time, because this isn't good.
This is not going to work for me.
Yeah. This is not a good plan. And I'd always been into computers, so again with the Radio Shack, I had access to computers, and I was always screwing around with them, whatever. And you go to the counselor, right? That's what I did at the time. I'm like, I don't know what the hell to do, right? This is now I'm lost. And we're talking spring, which Michigan Tech ran on trimester, so there were three sections each year plus summer. And I'm in the third one of that second year, and I'm like, I am totally lost. This is not clicking with me. And finally, you know, the obvious choice that everybody would have said is like, dork, go into computers. You like computers, you're good at it. So I'm like, all right, let me try this. And I'd taken a computer class before, and I'm like, so I jumped full into that, started that summer into my computer curriculum, loved it all the time. That got me through college, and it was great. I was taking classes that the graduate students were taking as an elective. I would take them.
Nice.
Just because I like to learn more. So
I have my own story, John, that I have an associate's degree in electronic engineering.
oh, there you go.
Before you hold your hand down, I was really interested in computers myself. I think, and I'm probably wrong, I think I came up with the first telephone headset, you know, that
Oh yeah.
people, customer service people have. I actually built the thing and built it to one of our phones and stuff. My mom's like, "What are you doing?" And because I
Yep.
loved this part of it. And so the parents said, "There's an electronics school in town. Why don't you go there?" And I was never good at school, meaning I was easily a B+ student, but I did everything like this and done, and I'm bored now.
Yep.
My parents went to there, and how's our son doing? Well, he's reading the newspaper in my class. But his grades are B+. Yeah, they are, but they could be A+, but he just doesn't have the motivation.
Yep.
And it was because I liked doing this and the other stuff.
Yep.
Didn't care for that.
Yep. The brother that's 10 years older than me, the one that ran the Radio Shack, and now coincidentally also runs the family business because he took over from my dad. He went to, he did a 2-year degree in electrical engineering, same kind of thing, right? School wasn't his thing. He wanted to get into the electrical stuff and then get through it, right? I don't need this other stuff. And he's had a great life since then.
Learn while you earn.
Yep.
Okay, you with the hand up.
That being said, my snarky comment: how often do you use that associate's degree that you got? Since you got it.
Early on, I did a lot. Later on, it's kind of funny you say that because if Lori has a computer question, come on, you went to school for this.
Yeah.
So
I am not tech support. Well, I do not. Tech support in my house is me or ask your friend in a different state.
I can tell you who to call.
Yeah, no, I will do it. I'm not. I can do it, but it's not my thing.
So you're at Michigan Tech,
Yep.
and there's a job fair.
Yes, currently.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm still going there.
Yeah, well, there was a point. It was like I wasn't getting a job, so I was like, well, maybe a grad degree would be a good thing. So that did almost happen.
A lot of people go to college for 8 years.
Yeah,
They're called doctors.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because again, 2.5 years in, I switched degrees 180 degrees. So
You're going to Michigan Tech.
Yep.
And I just wanted to say there's a food fair, but there's a job fair.
There's also food there too.
There is. You eat well in college, especially when you live in the dorm. Yeah. So the way the interviews work, again, that computer science, because I'm a true, I'll say true computer science, meaning computer science is my actual degree, Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science. So the department is rather small. Most of Michigan Tech is engineering based. So you have electrical people who do a little bit with computers, right? But they're more just like you were describing, more on the hardware side.
Yep.
Where I was more all on the computer programming side. So the way Michigan Tech worked at the time anyway was recruiters would come up there and they would book all day slots. And then at the career office, they would put out a sheet and you'd go sign up, right? This is pre-online sign up. This is physically, you had to walk down there, write your name in and go, well, I guess I can make that work in my schedule. So I would do that, right? Because I'm trying to find a job at this point. I interviewed with Schneider. Schneider, what at the time was called Schneider National Trucking Company. And, nothing came of it, right? I interviewed with Ford, I think, and whoever else. There were a couple other ones I'm sure I interviewed with. And then, I would keep doing that and I would sign up for who's ever there at that point, right? Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just know I like doing this stuff. I don't know who would want to hire me.
So did they say, John, what makes you think you're Schneider material?
What makes
Dude,
Dude, I'm just looking for a job at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like the shittiest part of interviews.
Yeah.
Especially those first couple jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Is that's always like in the back of your head, you're like, no, I need to sound professional. I need to sound like I know some shit. But really, you're not going there because you love the job. You're going there because you need money.
So that's it. I was like, oh, I'm graduating. I need to do something. I don't want to live at home. And I don't really want to work at the Radio Shack anymore because I worked there for a while and nice job, but not my thing. Talk about being bored. So this went on, and again, I don't remember how long I was doing this, but I ended up going through 3 iterations with Schneider, 3 different, like just randomly sign up. And it's not always the same person who comes up there, right? So talk to somebody the first time. Yeah, okay, thanks. Talk to somebody a different time. Again, for different time, these are probably months apart. The 3rd time around, again, just randomly signing up, they're like, you're not a fit for what we're looking for in our department. But it so happens there's another department that you might be a fit for. So that's how I got my first little toe in the door is because timing. Somebody, I found out this after the fact, of course, somebody had recently left the organization on a team, and they had a particular type of programming knowledge that coincidentally I had been interning with at college. Well, interning, I shouldn't say it that way. I fell into a job at college. So I think we talked about this last time, but so I, much like now, I'm a very helpful person. I like to help my friends out. So I had a friend, Julie, who was working for the chemical engineering department on a little Visual Basic was the language programming. And she needed some help, so I would help her out and kind of figure it out for her. And then she decided to take a different job doing something similar for a different department. And she's like, hey, I want you to take over. And so I just kind of fell into this job because I was a nice guy. So, it'd be a couple hours a week, go in there and fix up this program for whatever they wanted to be able to do. Well, that's what got me in the door at Schneider, because I knew that. Not because it was anything to do with the class I took. It's because I had that knowledge of that, and the person who left had that knowledge, and there weren't a lot of people in the industry who had this knowledge at the time. So it just kind of randomly happened that the blocks lined up.
I was just going to say that the planets aligned because, if I'm getting what you just said, so somebody comes from Schneider and you're just not going to be a fit for us. Second person comes from Schneider, you're just not a fit for us. Third person comes, and it just so happens, not only is there a door that's cracked open at Schneider, but that person actually knows
exactly
and that person, what has happened to me so many times in my life, John, is I've been lucky enough that people looked at me and said, you would be a good fit for this.
Yep.
And somebody believed in you enough to say, do this.
Absolutely.
And I don't think I've disappointed anybody yet, but
no.
There's still time.
So that got me in the door. The other place I had a job interview, so I like 3 real job interviews at the time. So I wasn't like I wasn't really in demand. Let's say I was a little less personable than I am now. But so the oldest brother worked for IBM in Rochester, Minnesota. I'd come to find out, and he knew I was looking for a job, obviously. There was nothing at IBM, but a bunch of people from IBM broke off and basically made a deal with Western Digital, the hard drive company, to open up an office there because IBM wanted those people to move to like California or something, somewhere they didn't want to be. They wanted to stay in Minnesota. So they started a Western Digital office, and it was in, like you have the mall and businesses rent out, and you just have the cubes in what would be a mall store, like a open front mall. That's what it was. So I went over there and interviewed. They turned me down at the time. At the same time, like within a week, I also went down to Green Bay and interviewed with Schneider. So they were really close together. Western Digital turned me down. Schneider
but you had a little practice with the Western Digital before you hit Schneider.
I don't remember which one I did first, honestly. Oh. They were very close together. And then, I got an offer from Schneider. And of course, silly me, wanted more, but you don't know nothing about nothing at the time. You're like, I don't know, it's money, I guess.
Zach, it's money, I guess.
Yeah.
Dude, no shit. I've made that mistake many times.
But I'm like, well, it's a job, and I got no other prospects, so.
When they're like, we'll pay you $10 more than you're getting paid. Yeah, sure. Well, you also got to work 40 more hours.
Yeah. So I accepted the job from Schneider, and within days of me accepting the job from Schneider, mind you, Western Digital had already told me, they communicated, hey, we're going to pass. Thanks so much. They called me back and said, we really want you to come back. And I'm like, well, you already turned me down. Why do you want me to come back? This is weird. Well, we have a different job in a testing area that we think you might be a good fit for. And I'm like, I appreciate it, but I've already accepted this job. I kind of feel obligated to take this job.
What are they paying you though?
They really tried to get me to come back, and in the end, I'm like, I don't know. I just have weird moral compass things sometimes. That was like,
Yeah, yeah.
I told them yes. If you guys would have called me before I said yes, I would have definitely considered it, right? And in the end, that was probably the right decision for other reasons.
For a lot of other reasons.
So that's how I kind of fell into the job at Schneider, sort of, kind of. And then this is a fun fact. So one of the guys, so the way Schneider does it is you go down there for a whole day, and they still do these things today, right? You meet with a bunch of different people, and then you leave, right? They don't tell you yes or no. And then what happens is all the people you interviewed with, they all get together and they do a consensus, right?
Yep.
Everybody says, here's what you did good, here's what you did bad, would I hire you, are you a fit for culture, all those kind of questions. And one guy that was in there, his name is Pat, a good friend of mine now, but he knows this one language that I was doing at the college, right? This side job thing. And that's the only reason I got in the door, because otherwise I wouldn't have made the cut.
Again.
There's been a lot of these things like that in my life, John, that I've kind of like, things have just happened and they've worked out in my favor. Fun fact, fast forward today, he is still there. Many, many years later, 27 years later, I think it is. He is still there. Obviously, I am still there. And I have worked for him on and off through my career, and I'm currently working, we call it a dotted line. I don't report to him, but he owns the project
Yep.
that I own. So, yeah, and again, he's been a good advocate of my career the whole way.
Nice.
So
you've taken a job at Schneider. I'll ask, how old were you when you took that job?
Oh,
Ballpark even.
probably 23.
Okay, so you're 23, and now it's time to
23,
move
24. Yep.
to the big city.
Yes. Again, small town kid, never really went anywhere. I mean, I'd been to Green Bay with my parents. They would come down every so often to get electrical supplies or whatever. But way culture shock for me, right? This is like, okay, I'm going to be here. I don't know anybody here, right? My family's 4 hours away. None of my friends are down here. So yeah, that was a huge change. I remember going to buy a map of Green Bay, because again, you didn't have freaking Google or anything at that time, because I'm like, I have no concept of where anything is. I lived over by what was Best Buy at the time, which is now the coat store, Burlington Coat
Factory. Yeah.
Yeah, so I lived over there. I was the first person to live in my apartment, which was nice. Not a bad area of town for somebody coming
And
out.
your brother helped you.
Yep, my brother came down, helped me look at apartments and helped me move and such. So that was nice. But yeah, now I'm down here by myself.
Yeah.
Still, to the state of computers, it was really, this is who I am. The big room in the apartment, I got a 2-bedroom apartment. The big room was my computer room. The small room was my bedroom.
Of course.
You don't need a lot of space.
You go in the bedroom.
You just sleep.
It's exactly what it is. I went in the bedroom to sleep. Otherwise, I had, the rest of the apartment.
Oh, what do you need that for? Put the chair back.
Yeah. So that was a journey. I was there for 3 years in that apartment.
So 3 years in an apartment, and now tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm out saying the wrong thing here, but you've banked enough money that you say, this apartment living, I'm throwing money away. I need to look at a house. Look for a house.
Yeah, it was kind of a random, it wasn't really planned. It was just kind of like, I think it was when I did my taxes or something. Or thereabouts, and I'm like, well, this is silly. Why am I? Because you report how much you paid in rent, right?
Yeah.
At the time, I think you maybe got a tax write-off or something. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? What am I doing here?
Existing.
Yes. So I randomly, decided to go look for a house. I was very close to my mom, so I talked to my mom all the time. And I'm like, I think I want to do this. And they were always super supportive of what I wanted to do. So I started looking at houses. Within 2 weeks of looking at houses, I found the house that I currently live in.
Nice.
and bought it. It was so weird. I wouldn't, I just started looking kind of on a whim, like, well, whatever. You go look, you kind of get an idea of what you want or what maybe even makes sense, right? You go, I'm probably not going to afford it. And no, it just all, again, worked out because the house I picked wasn't even on the list of criteria that I gave my realtor.
Really?
No, it was because I wanted a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, I think it was, is what I was looking for, or bigger. Because I'm like, well, I'm probably going to live here for a while. I like 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 2 bathrooms sounds like a good plan to me for whatever reason. Well, the one I'm in has a 1.5 bath. So we were, at the time, the girlfriend and I at the time were, I think we drove around, or I drove around, and just happened to, because I was looking in the neighborhood near work. Because I'm like, well, I work here. I don't want to drive a long way.
Yeah.
And I just happened to see this house for sale as I was riding around a random neighborhood, and called the realtor up, and I'm like, hey, this house looks really interesting. I'm like, how come it didn't show up? And she's like, oh, because of this. I'm like, can we go see it? And consequently, and again, my brother was involved in that decision, so he came down after I looked at a few, and then we went back and looked at the finalists, if you will.
Yeah.
And this was the best out of those. So, and this, there, ironically, this and a house like 5 houses away, I liked both of them. And I got this house, and years later, we talked to somebody who was in at the other end of the street, and they're like, yeah, you beat me to the punch on the house because you guys got it before us because we were looking at that one too.
Nice.
So that was a good laugh at the time.
So back up a second. So you're looking for a house. You have a girlfriend.
Well, that happens.
So
I don't know. Magic.
where did you meet the girlfriend?
Online.
On the interwebs.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact story there, but again, this is back a million years ago. Now you got 15 apps on your phone, and you go, yeah, no, that. Like, this is back when I remember trying to.
Had to put in effort.
Oh yeah, you had to. So like at one point, I was on a dating thing. So it was like a voicemail service. Like, you would go record your message on this voicemail service.
Really?
Like, introducing yourself, and then I don't remember how you looked for people, but then you'd listen to their messages, and
No kidding.
same concepts as today. You'd say if you're interested or not, and then you could connect without knowing each other's phone numbers through this service.
So it was like phone tag.
Yeah, kind
So
of.
for dating.
Yes.
Huh.
I don't think I met her through that. I met some other girl, but I was like, that was weird. So yeah, it was kind of through the internet in some fashion or another. It's all blurry.
So hopefully this isn't blurry. So you connected with this person.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you first go to meet her?
Ironically, again, different day and time. She drove to my apartment. She lived 2 hours away.
Wow.
And I think it was her and her friend drove to Green Bay.
So I
meet
need a
me.
friend to come with me because he could be creepy and
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. I'm just saying. That's a good plan.
drive.
Yeah.
Was it Madison or near Madison?
That near Madison, she's down
And so
there.
you drove 2 hours, and you might never be coming back. So I'm going to take a safety friend with me.
Yeah.
Just for somebody to drive the car.
Yeah.
You look out. So yeah, that was how we met. Ironically, she came to my apartment again. Way different world. Probably would not happen that way again for lots of different reasons on both sides. Right? This weird person just showed up in my apartment. I don't know anything about them either.
So she and her friend show up at your apartment. So did you go to dinner?
I do not remember.
I was going to say where I was going with this was. So did you go to dinner? And does the friend have to tag along for dinner too?
Are you paying half?
Yeah. Because I might be paying for you, but I'm not paying for her.
Yeah, and I don't even think they told me their comment. I vaguely remember. I think they just showed up.
Wow.
Again,
Okay,
I didn't have much of a life.
So but
it was like,
whatever.
but Zach, she's looking at us. There's a guy who has a pretty good job, I see, and
yeah.
this would work out well for me. For me.
Yeah.
And so you start dating.
Yep.
And walk me down that road. So how long did you date her?
I think it was 5 years.
5 years. And 5 years was not for you, well, probably for you a little bit, commuting back and forth.
It was mostly me commuting back and forth, either between Stevens Point or where she lived, again, down by Madison, just because she went to school in Stevens Point. So, of course, while she was going to school there, I would go drive over to see her on the weekends, which was fine. Again, I had
Didn't have nothing
nothing
better to do.
That's exactly what it was. I started dating her while I was in the apartment, and I bought the house while I was dating her, but she wasn't involved in the house purchase decision. She was just more, this is just, I move, I now live here.
Yeah.
Just how it worked out, right? Because it was 2 hours away. I've had a lot of girlfriends in my life, so
So
I'm weird.
You dated her for 5 years, and in the middle of those 5 years, you're commuting back and forth.
Yep.
So since we probably should move past that part, so what ended that?
Well, we're not going
No. What we went through. Now we're going to what ended it.
I just a lot of times I am a person who holds a lot of things inside, and then eventually it gets to the point where you're like, you just kind of, I won't say snap, like I didn't like get violent. It just, it pushes you over the edge. And you're like, I'm done. I'm done with this. This is, we're past the point, and it's a bad thing for the record, because
It is what it is.
Well, it's who I am, but that doesn't make it great for relationships either. So I don't recommend.
Well, I'll stop you
10.
I'll stop you for a second, John, because I may recommend that, because if you don't, maybe it drags on way too much longer too.
Yeah.
So
well, that's the problem. It does drag on, and then
and then you snap anyway. So
yes,
it probably should have ended back here sometime.
More aggressive
Correct.
than it would have been.
Yeah.
Yes.
I see.
And then the person is blindsided, right? And again, so I do not recommend communicate. Please communicate. Do not do what I do. So it just got to the point where there was some other interest at that point with somebody else. So that was kind of the catalyst to go, all right, this needs to be done. Which was unfortunate, right? I feel bad because I did it in a really shitty way. So
was she shocked?
Yes, to say the least.
Did she beg for your mercy? Did she say no?
She definitely was like, "Can we work this out?" kind of stuff. But
and you were far past that. You were far past that.
It's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very much the jerk of this story. I very much admit it. But it is what it is. It's what happened, and again, you got to own your mistakes, and that's when I'm. That's true. Yep,
that's true. But
there's nothing I can do to fix it, right? It's just other than.
But again, this is kind of where fate draws you down that road again. So you're done with that girlfriend, and then what?
So I was kind of talking to somebody I knew from high school again, small group of friends, small town. And we both happened to be single at the same time. And so we dated a little bit here and there. But again, she lived in Lower Michigan because, of course, I just can't have anybody who's close. I don't know, some mental issue.
Helps you think on the way back.
There's probably some trauma of distance.
There definitely is. It comes back in the story later. And along the way, we kind of know this probably isn't going to work. She isn't going to move. I'm not going to move, right? It was more. But we were still, overall, we were still friends. And at one point we go, I had been, back up a little bit. So I had been talking to Amy, who is now my current wife, the girl from high school. Online, we had been friends for years, right? Amy now, I was at Amy's first wedding. Amy's now divorced. She now has a 4 or 5 year old, probably, when we started talking. And I offered, and again, I live in this house, and I'm like, she lives up in Rhinelander. I'm like, dude, if she was having a bad day or something, I'm like, well, if you want to come down some weekend, I got an extra bedroom. You and Darren can come down. I don't care. We'll do some stuff around Green Bay. Just whatever. you know, and there was nothing more than just
I was just going to interrupt you and say that
Trying to help us.
is
it's like,
you know what's funny, Zach, is you hear so many bad stories like what John is describing, where it turns out bad. But in knowing John and who he is, he was just being a hell of a nice guy, and there was no expectations at all. And it was just like, hey, if you want to come down and hang out, I'll hang out with you, or you can hang out with me.
yeah. Again, we've been friends for probably 12 years at this point. I can't remember. Got to be at least that
Jesus,
long.
John, are you getting old or what?
Yeah, I am. It is all fading. The gray hair is, that's what it is. The gray hair sucks the memories out. Got to get rid of the gray hair.
It just all blurs together.
Yeah. So she comes down with her son, and we do a bunch of stuff around Green Bay. One of the things we do is we go to the train museum, and if you've been to the train museum, you know, you can take a little train ride, right? Like a 5-minute train ride around the place. And we get our tickets and we're getting ready to go on, and like her son starts freaking out. He's like really upset and, you know, crying and whatever. And I'm like, I get down on my knee and I'm like, what's going on, buddy? You know? And finally we learn that, well, he's worried the train is going to get robbed because they had gone somewhere else, I think earlier that summer, and done a train ride, probably up in Leona or something. And there they stage people come rob the train, right? It's part of the whole story.
Yeah.
And he hated that, so he didn't want to get on the train because he assumed there'd be a train ride. So I calmed him down. Eventually we got on the train, and I have a really cute picture of him sitting in front of me, and he's holding a little Huey, they called it. It was a stuffed animal you could check out of the library up there, and you'd take him on adventures with you. And then you'd write a little bit about what his adventure was, and he'd go back to the library.
That's awesome.
So Huey, I have him and Huey, and he's just smiling away, and it's a really cool picture. But that's the catalyst of that is Amy started to look at me differently. And of course, I was part of this story as well. You know, the more we chatted online, it was like, well, maybe there's something here. And that was kind of the catalyst for what started it.
Huh.
And Amy, ironically, again, was 2 hours away the other way. So I went from a girlfriend 2 hours away. I quote unquote dated somebody for about 3 weeks from Michigan when I'm in Wisconsin, lower Michigan, mind you. And then, you know, Amy's 2 hours away the opposite direction.
So you are the center of the universe. Is that what you're trying to say?
No.
Everybody comes.
No. I'm just kind of see the thing about staying at the same job for a long time, staying in the same house for a long time, I like repetition. Yeah. To some extent.
Yep. That's your comfort
zone. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's the comfort zone. Like, could I move? Yep.
But why?
But why? I'm happy right here.
You know. So that's how Amy and I started dating back then. God, I think it was ICQ, if anybody's that old. If you remember on Messenger. It's one of the messaging.
ICQ. I don't. The acronym or the IC, it sounds familiar, but I can't.
Yeah, it was just a chat app like Yasu or whatever. You know, you had to have like 15 of them at the time, depending on which friend you were talking to.
Well, that would be beneficial too, because you could have a girl on this one and a girl on this one and a girl on this one, and nobody would ever connect.
Well, back then it was easy.
I wasn't. Now it's so complicated.
Yeah. Well, dude, I wasn't that smooth to begin with. So let's be real here.
Yeah,
that was not going to happen. So yeah, that's how Amy and I started dating. And again, I'm still living in the house. After a few years, and it all gets blurry now. I want to say 2 or 3 years. We're like, okay, why did you move to Green Bay? But being who I am, I'm like, look, I've never had a girlfriend in the same town like forever since high school.
So really, Amy, I'm gonna have to have you move to an apartment across town.
That's exactly what
just
happened.
Because this is my comfort zone here.
Yeah. So she had an apartment for the first year we were dating when she moved to Green Bay, or the first year she was in Green Bay. She didn't spend much time there, so that was a wasted investment. But it was well, again, we were friends long before this, so it was like, well, if this doesn't work out, I don't want this to
leave you hanging.
Yeah.
this isn't my goal.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that was never an issue that had to be resolved.
Yeah. It was good to have a safety net, though.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. Because again, on top of this was, mind you, dating a girl you've known for a long time, so that is in and of itself. But I had no desire to have kids really, right, of my own.
Yeah.
So coming in and going, wow, you got a 5-year-old
Ready-made.
Yeah, which Darren was an awesome kid at that age, but I was like, wow, okay. So like some of the discussions we had, which I give us a lot of credit, was, well, if Darren's around, I'm going to have the same expectations I would have with my own kid, right? If I had a kid, right?
That was one of the things that me and Cheryl talked about early on.
Yeah.
I tell people that all the time. When me and Cheryl first got together, the first thing, before we even got together, actually, and when we were just friends, when we were just hanging out, that was the first thing she ever told me when she brought her kids around me in the first place was, you're in their life for the rest of their life. I don't care if we don't work out. I don't care what happens. If you're going to be in their life, you're going to be in their life. And again, with the parenting thing too, we had that conversation too of, I understand that, you parented a certain way and they have their dad, but like if when we get married or get together, I also have a parenting style, and that's not going to stop doing that. And that was difficult for the first year because you kind of work around, because I would assume it'd be the same for you, because you kind of work around their parenting they've already instilled, and then kind of working your own in there at the same time.
And finding the boundaries and going, when are you being overly protective mom because somebody's doing something to your kid that you don't like, right? And when are you, John, overstepping the bounds of like, relax, it's a 5-year-old kid, right? So there was some healthy tension at times there. And that's okay.
How old's Darren right now?
25, almost 26. He's going to have a birthday in like 6 days.
So do you ever get the Amy is the protective mother that would say do anything for her child, and John is the actual voice of reason?
There's always...
Hey.
There are times, probably not to that extreme, but there are times where we fundamentally differ on things, but it is what it is. It was never a roadblock. It was just a thing, right? It was.
I think personally that's a good thing. I mean, and I've said that about you and Mom too. I think that's a good thing to have those two personalities. I think if both of you had, and not to say that you can't be on the same page, but I feel like if both of you had the same ideology, there wouldn't. I don't know. I personally just don't think it would work. You would have no balance.
People have asked us, and he knows this. People have asked us a lot of times, is what makes your marriage work? Because we'll be 39 years this year.
God, you're old.
What makes your marriage work? And I said, we're opposite. We are not 100%, but what she likes is different from what I like, and it gives both of us different perspective to go, oh, because I never thought of that, because I like this, And
yeah, absolutely. Yep. So it was very much that while Darren was growing up, and some days were better than others, right? With any kid, right?
True.
But he's married now and
so
living his life.
Sidebar, and he can tell the story. But so Darren and his girlfriend are gonna get married. Not till when? Later this year?
August or something. August, September, somewhere in there.
And then all of a sudden, go ahead.
So the middle of January, I get a phone call. Right?
No, she's not pregnant, by the way.
Yeah. I get a phone call and says, "Hey, can you take February 14th, Valentine's Day off?" And I'm like, look at the calendar. And I'm like, that's a Tuesday. Why would I take a freaking Tuesday off? Like, why? And of course, this is the way it always goes, Darren. This is just the way Darren is. He doesn't tell you the whole story. You gotta
Pull it out.
All
Yeah.
right, come on. What's the story here? Well, turns out the fiance at the time had put in their story, like their love story, at a place called Devotion's Wedding Chapel was running a contest. The contest was for a free wedding, right? They won. So they got an officiant, a place, a reception,
Photographer,
cake,
that wasn't you.
a photographer. That wasn't me, which is fine because I wouldn't have been the photographer anyway. All included. But the catch was you had to do it on Valentine's Day. Mind you, this was like 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks before Valentine's Day. They found out. So they were not really in a position to like move, but this is
But
an
how can you say no when all your
Exactly.
expenses are
I was
paid?
gonna say.
Yep. So it was
Because he knows all the expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and all the decisions you got to make, and just think if somebody came and said, "We're going to give you all this. Now your decisions are down to this. What kind of cake do you want?" You already have the place, so you don't have to decide that. Here's the menu we'll offer, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you have a little variability, but it's not like, oh, I got to pick these 15 things. No, you probably got like 3, right?
Still, it's free.
Yeah, and you don't have to find a photographer, even though I have photographer friends that I would have connected him with. It's just all included, but the catch is you got to get married in like 3 weeks. So, it was a mad dash. They went and found her a dress quickly off the rack, right, with the little modifications they could make to
That
it.
doesn't happen very often.
Oh my god, no! If we had to get Cheryl's dress with the fucking train and shit, and there's no fucking way that.
Yeah.
That took way too long to find.
Yeah, she ended up with a light blue dress. I think you guys have seen the pictures.
You did. I thought it was white. It looks white.
It's a very light blue. And then Darren opted out of a tux and said, instead, can I get a suit? Because then I get to keep the suit, and some of our friends are getting married later this year. And I'm like, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Price-wise, it's really irrelevant. They're
You go to somebody. I was gonna say you go to somebody else's wedding. How come Daryl's wearing a tux?
Yeah.
Is he getting married? Darren's getting married too today? What's the deal?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it all came together, and just a fun little quirk about it. So we went to the rehearsal right the night before, and we're coming out of the rehearsal. And mind you, Darren's biological dad is in Texas, and his dad drove up for the wedding, which was pretty awesome. Right?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a drive. They actually drove up and drove back. So they were there for the rehearsal. So we're leaving the rehearsal at the church and getting in the car, and we look up, and of course it's Wisconsin in February, right? So it's dark out at 7:00.
Yeah.
And we see this weird streak going across the sky, and we're like, well, it can't be a meteor because they're like all in a line, and some are really close together and some are, but they're all like going. So we're Googling on the way there, and that was Starlink passing over.
Nice.
So it's just a random, it just happened to be at the right time, right? There was probably a 10-minute window you could see it. And sure enough, that's when we walked out of the church. So that was a cool little fun fact. So we have some pictures of the Starlink satellites going over after the rehearsal.
Nice. You just made me think of a personal story. My wife will say, "Why does it always have to be about you?"
Funny. It's my show, damn it.
It is my show, damn it.
I couldn't see a reaction. So.
Funny side story to this, John, and I may have told you this before. So Lori and I were in Appleton. This is several years ago, and I take her out for a very nice dinner. And after we get done eating, we're sitting there talking for a long time, and it's now close to 10:00. We're heading back home to Green Bay, and as we're about to get on the highway, I said, "Did you have a good time?" And she said, "Yeah, I had a great time." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry there wasn't fireworks and all that." And just at that, the Timber Rattlers
Yes.
did their fireworks display, and I went,
Nice.
that was awesome. But anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was great. And the catch was they had 50 people was the max, because that's just what the reception could handle, because it was all on site. But I mean, the people who did it were awesome. I could not recommend them as a venue anymore, because the lady was super awesome. She's like anything you needed.
Nice.
And then they had a disconnected ceremony, so no, they didn't want anybody taking any cell phone pictures or anything during the ceremony.
Wow.
So I stuck in, and I set up a camera, my regular camera, off to the side to video it. And then the one person who was allowed to have their cell phone out was Amy's dad, stood up in the balcony with a cell phone videotaping there. So I cut the two together and give him a wedding video.
So I will now draw you down a photography road. Because John,
Why'd you do that?
because because we talked about this before too, that John is a photographer, but wait, have you been one of those?
I don't know.
So
Ironically, I was taking pictures last night on top of it.
way back when I told this story to him, way back when, in probably my 20s, I don't know who was taking pictures somewhere we were at, and I just burned it in my head as, why do we need to take pictures? I am living out here. I am not living in the past, nor have I ever lived in the past. Why? Why? And I never, at that time, probably young and dumb, never thought, why would I need to do this? Because
But now you look back on your wedding pictures with that hell of a mustache, and you're like, that's a picture I'd like.
well, no, but to your point of there, John, I'll tell you this, is kind of down that road a little bit, is Lori's Mary Lori's mom knew, was it one of the big doctors in town? His wife, the doctor's wife, made wedding cakes. And would you make a wedding cake for my daughter's wedding? I haven't seen a wedding cake this phenomenal.
Oh my god.
Ever.
For fucking real.
It is a cake, and then a stand, and then a cake, and then a stand, and then a cake, and then that's on top, right? However, then you have staircases off to the side with another cake, and staircases off to the side, and it was just to see. I don't think we have a good picture of the whole cake, but we have like a side.
The only one that I know that you have is the one of you and mom, and it only shows half of it.
Yeah, it only shows half, but it was like, holy cow, And now, again, now that I'm older, you kind of go, pictures mean a lot.
I wish I would have had it.
Yeah, I wish I would have had a lot. And so, as times change and you mature and you get a little smarter, I hope, I start taking pictures of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I have been criticized on Facebook for taking so many pictures and posting so many pictures. And I have changed, totally did a 180-degree turn and say, I'm going to document my life. And I'm going to say for one reason only, and that's for my grandkids.
Really, because I thought it was because you're narcissistic and you want everybody to know how awesome your life is.
See, that's what people think. But that's not true. It's for my grandkids, so they can look at my Facebook page at any time, and I hope they say, God, he lived a great life, and we need to get out and live that life. Because I know so many people that sit in front of a TV every night. And my dad tells that story. I may have told you that my dad told the story when he worked at Oscar Mayer. He had a lot of friends there that after they retired, they went home, sat in their chair and watched TV, and 6 to 9 months later, they're dead. Mm. And he vowed never to do that, which hence I'm vowing never to do that. Although I do a little of that lately.
Your dad rode his bike.
My dad rode a bike up until he couldn't. Yeah. My dad he physically couldn't. He played golf once or twice a week, and just got out. He walked around the block a lot. Could have been just to get away from my mom. Who knows? But to get out and do it. Mm-hmm. And so then, but that's really why I started kind of, quote, documenting my life, is I hope my grandkids can look at it and go, yeah, okay, get into their head that we need to get out. You only have one life, and you need to get out and live it while you have the opportunity to do so. And my best friend, I probably still get a little upset when I say this. My best friend died when he was 14. Mm-hmm. And so my dad made that statement that stopped me at that time when we got at the visitation. Thank you. Think about this moment. He stopped me in the driveway. Think about this moment. That could have been you.
Mhm.
And from now on, you should live your life as best you can because you never know when that day is going to come.
Mhm.
And so that's what turned me on a dime. And so now I start to document all this stuff. So now we come back to you again. What got you into photography?
The brother who happened to own the Radio Shack, actually. So he was into it. Actually, Dad was into photography too. But the brother is the one who taught me black and white photography in the darkroom. So literally back in the day, multiple chemicals go through it, which was fun. And then I was on the yearbook staff as the photography dude for a couple of years.
When you were doing that, were you still doing the darkroom?
Yep.
Because as we discussed too, that I've done that before in high school, and it's good to learn.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like you'd say,
It's
It
very
is- it's-
very
it's very-
tedious, but
fiddly. Like if you have a few pictures you're gonna do, but you know, a lot of times in yearbook you're like just powering through a ton of pictures.
yeah.
Because then you're gonna decide later of what you're really gonna use, right? You throw 90% of them away. But yeah, so I was darkroom back then. We also used a small business in town to develop, but I did do some. I actually made in our senior yearbook or junior yearbook, I can't remember which one, but I actually made an isometric cube, you know, like looking at it, you see all three sides. And I cut out the pictures. I made a template and drafted.
And put it on there?
Yeah. And so all the pictures were like an inch by an inch, but they were like offset, you know, like a triangle like, and put it together and made a composite of a whole bunch of pictures from high school.
Nice.
And that actually made I said all I wanted was one page of the yearbook because my friends were part of the staff too. And I'm like, that's all I ask is one page. Can we give me one page of the yearbook? So I look back at that and they're pretty cool. And you know, it'd be easy now. Like Photoshop, that would be trivial for me to do. But
However,
back then, it's like literally I printed every one of those damn little triangle things, and you know, try to organize it so like the darker ones are on one side. And I'm still pretty proud of that. That was a crazy idea, but
I was just gonna say what took you this amount of time back then can probably be done in this amount of time now.
I could do this in an evening easily right now.
Yeah.
If I wanted to. Or look it up on YouTube and get even like, how can I make this cooler?
Now we'll take this and we'll rotate it.
Actually, they probably have a template on there right
now.
Yeah,
100%.
All you have to do is hit a button and it would do it for you.
Yeah. Ask the AI. So that's how I get into it back then. I was on and off. Like when I moved to Green Bay, I really didn't do much with it. I don't know what caused me to start again. I know one of the event things was I ended up finding a very small photography group. This is probably 15 years ago now. There were like 8 people in it. And I remember the first event I went to, they went up to, what's it called? Bay Shore, Bay Lake, whatever. They're going up towards Door County. There's a park.
Yeah.
And we went there for sunset and took sunset pictures, right? Just scenic pictures. There were like 8 of us. That group eventually grew to like 100 plus people. And at one point, the organizer took over, I think it was West High School, not Southwest, but West. And we actually had a Saturday photo shoot there. And I think there were 100, 150 people there. So,
but as I don't know if he'll remember this or want to go down that road, where that would be cool for me. He's not a fan of landscapes.
No, yeah.
He's a people person.
I've learned that over the years.
He's a people person, believe it or not.
Pictures, yeah. That I used to take pictures of landscapes, and I don't know. I get bored, and kind of like you with school, right? I'm like, okay, I took a picture. I'm like.
Some more trees.
All right. I mean, no, mind you, I love a good picture. Like some of my friends go take them, and I'm like, that's a really cool picture. I would use that as a background, right? But
Zach and I laugh, and we quote movies a lot. And
no,
one of those down that road, John, is when in the movie Vacation when they go to the Grand Canyon. Go,
yep.
Okay.
That is exactly it. I'm like, interesting, but you know, I get there's no fulfillment afterwards, right? It's a cool picture, and then that's it.
So if you haven't thought about this, it's fine. You don't really have to. But what, I guess, internally for you, do people make you more excited than landscapes?
Yes.
Like photographing people?
Yep. It's the feedback, right? It's when you're in the moment, it's not as much, right? That's not the fun part. But when you give the pictures back to people and they're so excited about them, or the best compliment that I always love to get, and you only get it once in a while, but I can't believe that's me, right? That's where, or, I quote John here, right? I didn't even know that happened. I'm so glad you caught
You
that
got it.
moment.
So we were talking about your wedding and Kimberly's wedding that he photographed, and when you're in the moment and you're here, you don't see this over here, and that's what he's taking pictures
Yep.
of. And then to be able to go back and go, oh, I didn't know that happened, and this is cool.
Yep.
So yeah.
I think about that at the coloring table. I can't remember which wedding it was at, but there was a coloring table at one of the two weddings, and I remember a bunch of the kids, right, the grandkids, and they were all coloring, and I just thought that was so cool. I'm like, well, this is just,
This is
there's
just
nothing
good, wholesome picture.
Yeah, there's nothing special about it, but you look back, you go, oh my God, yeah, I remember coloring
Yeah.
at that table.
Yeah.
I think that was the weirdest part about our wedding, is that so many people were there taking pictures that going back, not only at the ones that you did, but everybody else did, I had the same thing. I'm like, I didn't even know that happened.
Yep.
I didn't even know that like those people were over there or anything.
What are they talking to each other? They hate
Yeah,
each other.
yeah,
Why are
that
they
too.
next to each
Yeah,
other?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the reward for me, right? Is that's why I like taking pictures of people, because you get that feedback. Like I'm in a small group now that we get together every 2 weeks, give or take, and whatever. Like the last weekend we went and did Twisted Disney. So like one girl was dressed up as Snow White. She had her apple, but then she had a cut on her face and blood on
Nice.
part of her body, and just that was her interpretation, right? It was just something fun to do. Did it make any sense? I don't know. Yes, no,
Sounds
maybe.
kind of cool.
But
That's cool.
it was a fun time, right? That's really, and we all had a good time there, like 6 of us, I think, that went. It was a blast, right?
So does this happen word of mouth? Like as an example, now I know you and you did Zach and Kimberly's wedding, but how'd you find
How do you get around?
how do you get around? I know as an example, and I think you told me this, but repeat it. You take pictures for Ariel
Yes.
in
So-
Appleton.
So what John's referring to is Fly Circus. Fly Circus and Aerial Arts is their full name, but they do fitness circus stuff. So picture anything you can do at a circus: trapeze, silks, anything you see like
Pole dancing,
pole dancing.
which not that, but what's really cool, I think, Silks is if you've seen the women. I don't think I've seen any guys.
there are a few, but it's a vast
But the ones that the things are hanging and they're like spinning around and doing and going up and down and like, oh, holy cow! And he takes pictures.
The cherry bombs, the one that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
They do that. They do that every time.
Yeah,
It's cool to watch videos of it. It's even cooler to see it in person. Like,
it is 100%.
Yeah.
So how I fell into that. So I'm their official photographer. How I fell into that literally is how this works. So I had a friend who was an instructor there back when they used to have a studio in Green Bay. She was an instructor there, and I would take pictures once in a while, and she'd be like, "Hey, can you take some pictures?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I just do it as a friend, go take pictures. Well, I did it enough times that the owner at the time of Fly said, "Dude, we want to get you involved. We want you to be our exclusive photographer." And it's like, "Are you kidding?" She's like, No, really. We'll pay you to come take pictures."
We'll give you money.
Yeah.
What money?
And mind you, at the time, I was just doing it for fun, right? I have a photography business, right? It is under my name, but it's not. I'm not trying to make a business out of it per se,
Yeah.
right? I need something for protection. If something were to go bad, right, you can have the business, whatever.
Yep.
I don't anticipate that ever happening, but
That's nice
it's
to
a
have.
separation from personal to
Yeah.
business, but it's for funds, and that's how I fell into it. So I've been doing. I want to say it's been like 3 years. Well, it was pre-COVID, so probably 4 or 5 years, maybe. I've been doing it, and then it just if a student wants a photo shoot, right, I'll come to the studio. As a matter of fact, Thursday I'm going there to take student pictures, and then they'll usually be happens to be one of the owners who's the assistant, so she helps the person get into the move and like gives them suggestions, and I'm snapping pictures because it's very different. And they all say this afterwards. Like it's very different than a class. In a class, you go do the move, right? You can go at your own pace, right? Pictures, you're holding it longer. It's more intense, really. You get tired a lot quicker, and they don't realize that. So that's what my Lacey, who's awesome, does there. She kind of helps them and thinks of pictures. And we always joke, it doesn't matter how you got into the pose for the photo, right? You know you can do the pose. You've proven that.
Yeah.
But how you get into it in the photo, nobody knows but the three of us.
Yep.
Right? It's irrelevant. But the picture is what you want. And now they do shows twice a year. I'll go to the show, and I joke because I'm sitting on a bar floor in one of them because they happen to have it at the Remix in Appleton, or Nina. And literally, I sit on the floor in the bar because that's where the best view of where they're performing is.
Nice. So,
how many people can say that? They purposely sat on the floor in a bar for, woohoo, chalk one up for John.
For what it's worth, I could say that, but I was also drunk. Chose to sit on the floor.
No, I was
going to say,
100% sober for hours.
I just wanted to go, did you put something down before you sat down there?
Nah, whatever.
Yeah. Something.
I've been in worse.
Just to get the picture.
So
yeah, it is about the picture.
Marketing, John Penokie. Do you have a website?
I do. EyeOnYouPhotos.com.
Eye on you.
I, like in your head.
EYE.
On you. YOU photos.com.
Nice.
So that's where I post all my pictures. And
awesome. So that is what I really wanted to understand about your photography. And by the way, as we discussed shortly there, just looking at my kids' wedding, it's just phenomenal to see some of the pictures you've done. And I've seen others too of the aerial acrobats, if you will.
That's I always struggle to describe it to people because if you just say pole, people they think strippers and whatever, and it's like yeah, but this is different.
I think Zach said it best: is to see it in person is just
it's crazy, and you don't understand. I mean, they are so strong; they don't give themselves enough credit to go. You're holding yourself up by two hands, upside down, dude. I can't walk a straight line. God forbid, get my ass up off the floor.
I'd be sitting there going, "Ooh, she could kick my ass."
I do. I tell them that, and this is an example of while I'm taking their pictures, because it's a lot of work to do theirs. To be fair, because I usually cut the backgrounds out, and it's just more than a typical shoot. But to show them and go, look, this is what you look like when you're doing that, dude. I mean, you're really killing it.
And their eyes pop out of their head.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome.
So if you ever go to their studio, look around when you walk in, you will see 90% of they have a canvas of each of the instructors. 90% of them are my pictures.
Nice. So the last thing I want to talk about is something near and dear to my heart.
You.
No, he's not.
See, someone think that.
But not the case. So I'm going to tell this story that I may have quickly told you. So when I was a younger child, back in my teenage years, when malls were a big thing, and all the teenagers went to the mall, it's kind of like Fast Times at Ridgemont High in a lot of ways. Me and two of my friends would go to the mall, and we'd go to the arcade and play pinball. And I'm not sure if we had jobs at that time or I got an allowance from my parents, whatever, but all the money that I had was probably spent in that arcade or gas money to get me to that arcade.
Mhm.
And it was one of the biggest light bulb or whatever thing going over my head, John, was we play these arcade games and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know how it happened. But one day, one of us kind of did a on the glass. And when we did that, ching, 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 and it was like, ooh, we found
Yeah.
a glitch. And so you had to make sure nobody was watching. So now you put your quarter in, you're playing the game, and you're looking around, you're going, and you're racking up points, you get a free game, and now you don't have to spend as much money.
Yeah.
And although it was only one pin, it was Ted Nugent, by the way. I
Yeah.
remember the game clearly. But me and a friend of mine that I grew up with, we talk about that occasionally. Is that game and you hit the glass and that it was just very memorable. So John tells me a story about a place called District 82, and I'm like, yeah, and he goes, it's a pinball, and I'll let him tell the story. But essentially, the guy loves pinball machines and he collects them, and his wife got sick of that.
It is nuts. I've seen it.
So go ahead, John.
Yeah. So I don't know how I find this. He's been now. I think he's like 6 years or something. He's been there. Don't quote me on that. But so I went there. I think it was last summer, probably this time. And I'm like, well, I always like pinball. So my brother owns a pinball machine, all the old school kind. So I would always like to play that. And again, back when I was a kid, back to the Green Bay when I come down with my parents, right? There used to be in the malls here, there would be been arcades. So while they would go shopping, I would beg them to go. And again, different time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, can I have $5 or whatever and go play in the arcade? So then I would go by myself over to the arcade and I would play there until either I ran out of money or they came and got me. So I always liked arcades, and again, back where we're from, the 30 minutes away, there's a big arcade. So I always kind of liked that stuff. Fast forward to a couple of years ago or last year, I go to this place, District 82. It's like, it's supposed to have a bunch of pinball machines. I have no idea how I found out about it. I'm like, oh, whatever. It's like $25 in the door and everything's on free play. All right, what the heck? I've wasted money on sillier things.
Probably wasted more than that.
100%. So I go there. I think I went the first time on a Saturday or something, which nothing special happens there on a Saturday. They're just open. I go there and we'll play the games. I'm like, well, this is kind of fun. So then some Friday night, sometime after that, I'm talking to Amy. I'm like, hey, do you want to go check this place out? It's pretty cool. So I convince her to go. And it so happens on Friday nights, he runs a tournament, like a free, basically, everything's still on free play. And if you want, you can put your name down and he'll run a little mini tournament. The way the tournaments work, Friday nights are 3 strikes. So you play games if you're in a group of 4 people or 3 people. The bottom 1 or 2, depending on how many people, get a strike. And you play until you get 3 strikes, and then whoever has, who doesn't lose the most wins the tournament, right? It's just for funds. And Amy and I did that, and it was a very slow night there, so there was only like 6 people or 8 people in it. Well, Amy and I made the top 4. The guy who runs the place, of course, took first. He's very good at the pinball stuff. And I kind of like, this is fun, because I would have never done this tournament. Like, I go now on Tuesdays, as you know.
Yeah.
And you go there, and that's all it is a tournament Tuesday. And there's like 75 people there, and every range of people who are damn good to
Me.
people,
To me.
hey, you held your own, to whatever. You could have walked in off the street, right? There's no restrictions. So that's a little bit more intimidating and even the Friday night one, when he was trying to talk us into it, we're like, I don't know, I'm glad we did, because it was a blast. So now I go about every 2 weeks. He has Tuesdays is a tournament. Anybody could come. You don't have to stress, because it's a tournament. But you pay $25. Again, everything's on free play. And then you go through 4 rounds and you play 2 games each round, and basically you get set with, I'll say, random people each time. So you don't get the same 4 people. Yeah, there's they call it Swiss seating. Don't ask me how it works, but they put you with people about how you're doing in the night. So the worse you do, you're in with people doing just as bad as you.
So you don't gotta feel bad.
Or just as good as you.
The catch is, right, so you're playing with people at your level, well, you have a better chance of winning, right? It's more competitive as opposed to like the number 1 player in the country plays in District 82. So, and there's a lot of top people there that play at District 82. So, like, realistically, unless they're having an off night, you're probably not going to win against them, right? I mean,
so he tells me about this, and so I went there Tuesday, and you're a little apprehensive because, like,
you didn't do too bad for what it's worth.
No,
but, so
I was watching his first game.
You're a little but I got a story about it that I didn't tell you.
He hit the glass.
No.
Well, I can tell you about that too because the owner does it. So that's legitimate
a story
strategy.
about that I didn't tell you that night. So, like you said, you're a little apprehensive or nervous because it's a tournament,
right?
And here's a guy like myself. Yeah, I loved playing pinball. I played it all my life here and there. I've been to one of these places in Madison when we were living down there, and it was really cool, and whatever. But you're still a little nervous, apprehensive, and so I started playing the first set, if you will, and to say that some of these people are professionals is an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
Because all I kept thinking of was, okay, I know we all have our hobbies, but dude, you, like there was one guy that was just so pissed off because he didn't do well,
Yep.
and I get that, but I keep thinking, dude, it's a game, what I mean?
Yeah.
No, and it's not for money. You don't get like
Right.
$100,000 or anything. So whatever, but that's you. Okay. So we do the first set and I did okay. And then the second set, I did pretty well. I think I got a first place and a third place or something like that in those 2 games. And I'm kind of understanding, but it's also in the back of my head that the way you could do better is if you, as I tell my kids a million times, practice, and see, okay, and the guy's got, to back this up though, go back a step. This guy has 100+ games in this, and it's a Tuesday night when you're thinking most adults are sitting at home, rubbing their belly, watching TV, having a TV dinner. Zach, there's 84 people that are there. 84 people. And I'm sure any business would love 84 people on a Tuesday night. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then you got to do the math. So 84 times $25 a piece, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
This guy's making a killing. But then you also look around and go, yeah, but how much is 100 pinball machines worth? And pinball machines are major money nowadays. And
not only are they major money, they're major money if one goes down.
Yeah. Their maintenance.
Yeah.
Especially with the ones, because not only the pictures that you posted, but I've also been there. The ones that they have there aren't like newer.
No, he has a mix of everything.
Yeah, he's got real old ones in realness.
He's got ones in there that you probably couldn't find the parts for right now that are cheap at all.
So I play this, and like John said, there's 4 sets, and I said that to you. It was like you were 55th and I was 56th or something like that. And out of 84, and this is my first time, I was like, okay, it's not great, but you didn't do that bad, But the story I got from this is, so the first round I do okay. The second round I did pretty good. Third round, it's still okay. The last time, I think I did not too great. But back up to that third one, there was one guy who thought he was all that in a bag of chips. And, I'm going to win kind of thing, know. And I don't know if he did or not. But there was a second guy in our group that beat him. And that made him not as mad as that other guy, but just upset. But he was so kind of, he told me this, that he's been there a few times. But he won by like a lot. But then he turns to me and he goes, because I was standing there watching, these other guys are just talking over here, but I'm watching. He goes, can you tell me what I did? Because I'm just trying to keep the ball moving and stuff. And I said, and about that time, the guy that thought he was going to win it all, he hears that and he comes over and he wants to. And so I said, well, all I can tell you is there was 4 or 5 buttons here, the kinds that you hit and they go down. And I go, as I watched you hit this. And I think by getting all 5 of those down, they were a multiplier. And so now you get 3 times your point. And you do it again, you get 4 times your point, and so on and so on. And I said, I'm pretty sure that's what you did. And he's questioning me going, really? You think that's all this? And the guy over here is like, yeah, I'm not sure that's what it is. But as the game sat there, it kind of gives you an idea, it lights up, and there's these blue lights, and they light up these things, and it goes 3 times, and then 4 times, and he goes, oh, yeah, he was right. That's what we should have done. And so you learn.
Yeah.
And at that point, now it all clicks in my head is going, okay, now if I play this game again, that's what I need to go for. But then there's 100 more machines because you never know which games you're going to be on. But I'm like, oh man, and I thought to myself, this is way too much for me. I mean, I'm here for fun, and I'm never going to win. And that was another side story. Hold on, that was another side story that I took pictures of. I took 20 more pictures that I didn't post. But there are guys wearing a sweatshirt or wearing a T-shirt that, Texas World Championship pinball, this data, it's printed on his back. And I took a picture of it going, what's he doing here? In Green Bay, Wisconsin. And like you said, there's people that come from all over.
Yep.
Everybody has their hobbies.
Because he'll run. So there's one coming up, I want to say the middle of April. So he'll run tournaments, like Tuesdays, like John said. It's the $25 is to cover you getting in the door, and that's it. There's no prize money. It's just you get points. So there's a ranking system nationally, and you're in that database, so you can go look at yourself now. But it's not really a cash prize, right? It's just cool. Well, the tournaments that he runs, like now the entry fee is like $200, $250, whatever it might be for that weekend. And then there is cash prizes. And people come from all over the country, and even people have come from Canada. You name it, all over.
Who'd have thunk?
Yeah, to Green Bay. That's how. And like they actually ran one of the, I don't know if it was a world tournament. It was a pinball based on golf. So there's different. They set the machines up differently, but that's where they had it. So all the people came to Green Bay, Wisconsin, right, to play pinball because this was a renowned pinball place. And Eric the guy who owns it, keeps his machines, he keeps them very hard, first of all. They run really fast. He changes them all the time in terms of like how they're set up and just trying to keep it challenging and interesting. And to your point earlier, right, he does all the maintenance on them, which keeps him busy. As a matter of fact, I was going to take a behind the scenes picture of him because he was fixing one machine. He had the play field up that night when we were there on Tuesday.
Yep.
Because he takes great pride in his collection. It's crazy.
And as John told me, so that's what's there, but he has more.
Yeah, somewhere else. I don't know. He's always swapping things out. Like I don't know what the relationship, but he has a relationship with Lumberjack Johnny's over in Ashwaubenon. So they recently ran a multi-day tournament there. Again, a pay one. Like I think they gave away a brand new pinball machine. Like, so to John's point, you're talking $7,000 to $12,000.
Yeah, easily.
On what it is.
Yeah.
And he brought a bunch of his machines over there for the tournament to help supplement the list they had. And honestly, again, from a layman, I knew some machines were missing. But if you walk through there, the way he respaced them out, you would have no clue that he was down like 15 machines.
Yeah.
I was gonna say to your point about figuring out how the machines work. I feel like because of how your brain works, if you weren't able to have the forethought to shut that off in you, that you would end up being that, because that's how your brain works. Is like, oh, I figured this one out, so I'm gonna figure this one out. So I'm gonna take notes, and the next time here, I'm gonna have.
There's a website called Pin Tips for that very reason.
Yeah, I would have probably assumed that. Yeah, and what's cool is it's not like a normal small mall arcade. This has got 100+ machines there. So I was telling John, you probably don't remember because you were just born. But when I ran a warehouse in Des Moines, I actually bought, I think it was like a $400 old pinball machine and had it in one of our offices. So when we got bored, we played pinball. But after a while, you get bored. It's fun just to be a pinball enthusiast. It's fun, but when you're playing the same game over and over, it gets awfully bored, and I ended up selling it. But to have 100, you're never going to be bored. It's the same thing.
You're always going to find new.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the thing that I wouldn't have expected, right? Because I like to play pinball like you, John. And you got 100 machines, so you just wander around and like, this one looks interesting. I know nothing about it. And you play the machine, and if you suck at it, well, it doesn't matter. It costs you nothing. You paid to get in the door.
Yep.
But the cool thing about the tournaments is, again, it's low stress. You lose, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all about fun. But you're playing against 3 other people typically, and that just makes it more interesting, I guess, because now it's like, okay, I'm not just playing, I'm trying to, like, I have a target score. I'm like, okay, can I beat this one person, right? Mm-hmm. All I need, because I joke, right? All you need is one good ball a lot of times. Really good ball, that makes all the difference. You can have 2 crappy ones, and still feel like you've accomplished something. Because the way the point system works is you get 7 for first, 5, 3, and 1. So you always get a point no matter what. And then just, like I said, the worse you do, like I was having a okay night on Tuesday, so I lost a couple of games, but then I ended up paired with people that were in the same boat and actually won a few of those games. Now, I won't be in the top tier doing that, but at least you walk away and go, well, yeah, that third round, I actually came in first.
Yeah, and like I said, you were 55th and I was 56th, and you kind of go, oh, okay, well, that's acceptable for me because it's my first time. But I beat out all the other people below me.
And man, those machines and Eric's machines, they can be very mean sometimes. Like they call it a house ball, I learned along the way, which is just like you don't get to do anything and she just pops right out the out lane or whatever, right? You're like, son of a.
You know what I kept thinking, John, as I was playing these games, and there were a few of them, maybe more than a few of them, that had this. All I kept thinking of is I could have designed this so much better.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was a lot of times where they have a second level on the game, and you go up this ramp, and instead of going up to this second level-ish, if you will, it goes up to this rail system that brings you right back down. I'm like, that's a waste. And you don't get any points for it either.
Yeah.
I was like, come on. There's so much more you could do with that,
There's actually, I should go find the videos for you. A guy did a very interesting series of the history of pinball. And I think he did four parts to it. And if you like pinball machines, it's worth the watch. It's interesting how like they've evolved. Like Stern is still a manufacturer today, but they went through some hard times. They got bought. A bunch of the manufacturers there don't exist anymore. Yeah. Chicago, fun fact, if those who don't know, Chicago was the big pinball manufacturer.
Really?
Like all the big names were there for a while. Obviously back in the day.
Chicago did everything.
Yeah. But again, and I love the place because, I won't speak highly enough of it, but Eric, the guy who runs it, is just a super nice guy, super friendly.
Yeah, he explained everything when I walked in.
Absolutely, and he really wants you to have a good time, right? And he's there, and like you said, you find the cheats in the game. I was playing. It might have been that night. I can't remember if that was the Friday that I went, but when the ball went on this one game, he'd slap the side of the machine, like in a certain spot when the ball was going by, and then it would register that something happened, right? And this is the dude who owns the place, right?
Yeah.
And that's a legitimate thing, right? And you even, if you watch, they'll stream the big tournaments there.
Yeah. I did. I watched some of the videos.
Yeah, and you see some of the guys, and they know that, right? They know the quirks of the games, and it's just part of what it is. And nudging the machine is. I'm not good at that at all.
I'm not either because I'm afraid you're going to tilt it.
Yes.
Some guy, I think I told you that. Some guy tilted it. He actually took first place in on that game that we were at, but he was far ahead, and it looked like he tilted it. And I'm watching him, and he didn't do anything. He goes, "What'd I do?" And I go, and then this other guy, "You tilted the machine." He goes, "I didn't do anything." And he goes, "I go, yeah, he didn't. He didn't move the game at all, but it tilted by itself, if you will." But
I have had that, and some of the depends on the game. He has them all set up differently. Like to your point, he has games like one of the games. I don't know if you played it. It's called Palooka. There, literally to put the ball in the plunger, you have to push a lever in because it didn't have a mechanism to kick the ball over. So the ball to start the game, you start the game, and then you push this thing. The ball pops over, and you go through that, and you get 5 balls. That's how, and a good score on there is like 3,000 to 8,000. Like it only has 4 wheels.
Wow.
So it's an awesome place. Please go check it out.
Yeah, please. I look at it from a business point of view, and while there's this huge investment, that huge investment was, like you told me, was his hobby anyways, and he just made it into a business. And again, to have 84 people paying $25 a night on a Tuesday night, and no, it doesn't operate every day, but still, on a Tuesday night to get 84 people in there, you just go, oh wow. And so, not in my head, I'm never going to do that, but it makes you think about what you could do.
Yep, absolutely. And he'll run private events, like you could book it out, and he'll run a tournament for your company, right? If you want.
See, and being a big geek, John, I could say, if I were young and dumb and got married again, and I was this big geek that I think I kind of am, is you could have a big wedding reception in there.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, shut up. Your son just said it would be cool.
He's a guy.
I know, but see, wouldn't it be fun? Oh, okay. So you say that. I was going to tell Zach this. And there were girls there too, weren't there?
Yeah, there are. So they actually
feel less alone.
There is actually
there was a half a dozen girls there that.
And like the one lady I was talking to, I don't think I'd talked to her before. She went down to Chicago and played in the Nationals or whatever. And some of them, I always tell John, the one lady, she makes me laugh when she's having a really bad night and the machine's like just pissing her off. She's just letting it fly, like swearing up a storm, and she's not quiet about it. And I just don't know, it probably irritates her, but I'm overly just giggling like, you go, you tell that stupid machine, because I'm swearing at him myself, like I'm just under my breath swearing at him. But
there was a husband and wife team that were there that I was played. No, she played. The girl that was playing with you in the first game, that was her husband, was playing next to me on the other side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's the one I was talking to. I think she went to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Or Chicago, I'm sorry.
Pretty cool place. Cool place.
Yep, they're only open certain days a week. Like you said, they're open Tuesdays. And Tuesday's technically a private event.
They're only open every other Tuesday.
Yeah, every other Tuesday.
John went down there on the wrong Tuesday.
Yeah. That's a private event technically, so you can bring your own beverage on that night only. And then they're open.
But they do offer, he told me when I walked in, they do offer free water and free soda.
Yep, absolutely.
So you really don't have to bring your own. I mean,
well, bring your own adult beverage.
Yeah, and then because I think he was drinking a beer.
Yeah, there, absolutely. That's one refrigerator is for bring your own stuff, actually.
And then they had a big plate full of cookies too.
Yep. Yeah, some people bring whatever, and then they usually have a food truck. 99.
So that was another thing. They had a Jamaican food truck outside, which I got Jamaican jerk chicken, macaroni and cheese. That was wicked awesome.
It was awesome.
It looks really good.
Yeah. I already ate dinner. I said, well, this is what I'm bringing home. She goes, huh, what's that? And I go, this is my dinner.
Jamaica Me Crazy comes there often, so you'll, enticement to at least come use the food truck.
Yeah.
You can come there and get the food truck and leave.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool.
Yep. So Friday nights so open to the public generically. Friday nights and Saturday for a few hours, and then Friday night he runs a mini tournament. He only uses half the place for your perspective because
Yeah.
it's two big warehouses and then two small rooms.
Yeah.
And the second half where the two rooms are is where they run the Friday tournament. For whatever reason, they only do half. Now,
Right.
again, the Friday bonus tournament, the real tournaments, they use the whole place. And they'll shut down for those.
Yeah.
But you can go sign up. Anybody can go sign up to play in a tournament if you want.
Nice.
So
that's all I got for you, John. Would you have any closing?
I had a question.
Oh, sorry. Back to you.
So
why do you have a stick?
Yeah, why
I
do
don't
you
know,
have a stick?
Because it was over there.
Uh,
I don't know. Because it was in the middle of the
He
couch.
needs a distraction.
That's
Anyway,
fine. Like that, I just
Yes.
Have you ever? I know you said the photography is something that you really like.
Yeah.
And as kind of like if anything happens, I at least have this. Have you ever thought about transitioning fully to photography, or is it just kind of like that would take the luster out of it?
Just a hobby.
It would take the luster out of it. I have thought casually about as I get closer to retirement, right? There will be a point where I'm like, this IT job's too stressful. Because in my world, the IT job, I'm in a high stress job, lots of pressure, lots of things I got to keep track of. Photography is 100% the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Very creative. I'm usually pretty chill. I'm like, which is why I don't typically do weddings.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I'm like, I want to take pictures, right? And just have fun. And 99% of the time they turn out, but that 1%, right, gets me freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
So back to your question, I thought about it maybe from a retirement thing, is this a fun little side gig I could do, just supplement a little bit while I'm still being retired, gives me something to do. That is a possibility.
But never as like a full-time.
No, I don't think so. I think it would be too hard. What I'd want to do if I ever did it would be like boudoir photography. But just because that's typically the way boudoir photography runs these days is you invest a lot in it and you want to get after the medium to higher end clients because then you're getting a big chunk at once, but you got to have a closet, hairstylist, right? It's an experience at that point, which I think is awesome. But
so I know you've done that.
Yeah.
However, my question is, could you tell me? So if I wanted to do that for Lori, how much does something like that cost?
With photography, it all depends.
Not with my discount, by the way.
Yeah. The problem is, like, I'll say there's people who charge $10,000 for an experience, right?
Wow.
5 to 10,000, right? And there's a lot involved with that, right? You get hair, makeup, wardrobe that you get to take home. Not only do you get to wear it, you get to pick it out and use it. Consultation, you get usually like a printed album. Think like wedding, full on.
Yeah.
It's a whole experience, which is why it's so much. When I do it, I charge way less than I should.
You might get the business because of that, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, and I do it for fun. I've done it for several friends, which sounds really weird, but again, I'm pretty chill about it. I usually make people joke. I think I told you this story last time. So that small group I'm in, one of the things that usually happens is there's a theme, and then a lot of times, especially if we're in a studio, there might be a boudoir portion of it, right? And people can choose to participate or not, which nobody cares. It's like you paid your money at the door. It's all good. But one girl in particular sticks out to me as it was her first time there. Her sister had been there before. Her sister talked her into coming, and I was the first photographer she shot with. That I think there were 3 photographers, and she just walked away from that first set, and it wasn't even boudoir. It was just something she was posing, and she walked away from that one little set, came back later and said, I had to come back with shoot with you. And she was then just in a shirt and underwear, and just, she's like, you made me feel so good. And I had such a good time shooting with you. I wanted to shoot more. And yes, I want to do the boudoir part now. And that was like the huge compliment to me. I was like, The fact that a male, first of all, was taking your picture that you don't know in a weird environment where you know one person, and you were comfortable enough to say, yeah, I want to do this and I'm good with you taking my picture, right? And the girls are typically a lot younger than me, obviously. I couldn't ask for a better compliment, right?
I'm going to bring you all the way back around, and I don't want to misquote you,
Oh,
but no, but you said in the beginning that, you know, when somebody looks at that picture and says, "Oh my God, I never knew that I looked
Yep.
like that," and that is everything right there.
Yep, absolutely. And I've taken pictures with her before. Like we've done crazy off the wall stuff from there, more boudoir stuff. All because, you know, I don't know, I am who I am. I try to make you joke around when we're doing it. You know, you look serious in the pictures, but the goal isn't to be awkward, right? The goal isn't like, this isn't a sexual thing while it has nothing to do with that while it's happening.
Yeah.
Right? You may take the pictures and they may be like very seductive or whatever when you get them, but the moment around those pictures is
all about fun.
Yeah, because otherwise it just, in my world, it's too awkward, right? Because then I get awkward and you don't know what to expect, right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
the whole photo shoot is just like,
yeah. Whereas like you're joking around a little bit, trying to lighten the mood in between.
Yep.
So yeah, I've had a friend, like I've helped her. Like you said, I've done several boudoir shoots, and I've had a friend come over and use my basement studio, and I've been her assistant. And again, you know, we always tell the people, because when she has somebody come over, I'm like, dude, make sure they know that, you know, there's going to be a guy there because this is another female photographer. And I'm like, and tell them, and I say it even when they get there, I'm like, if at any point you want me to step out, because, you know, I'm not essential to be there, I'm helping my friend.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had several people who've done it, said, oh no, you were awesome. You know, yeah, we had you step out of this one part, but that was it. And it was totally comfortable.
I think the idea that, it's just me personally, I think the idea that you're not only set that precedence, but that you're still willing to do that says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing is, but this is just my thought process. It's one thing for a guy to say that, but then when it comes time to be like, "Hey, can you step out?" Be like, "Well, why?" But
Yeah.
just that,
And then you become the creeper.
well, yeah,
Yeah,
just that interaction. But the point is that not only was that said, but it's also like,
Yeah,
no problem.
Yep. And
I think that overall, I think that.
and they're probably tired of me. Like a lot of the girls in the small group we've shot with a bunch, so I don't say it to them anymore. But if there's somebody new there, you know, I will stress and go, look, if at any point I ask you to do something that you don't want to do, or even you've agreed to it and now you go, I'm not comfortable.
Yeah.
Say it. I don't care. We will move on to something else right then and there, because this is about you being comfortable. If you're not comfortable, it shows in the pictures and nobody wins, right?
Yep.
So yes, those are awkward sometimes initially, but your goal is to make them not awkward.
I've seen, you know, I brought this up the last time too. You don't know this, so that's why I'm telling you. So there's a picture of his wife Amy that I think is just so wickedly cool, and he's got it in his living room. That she takes this big thing of honey and pours it over her head, and it's going like this on her head. And he took that, and it's just something it's really cool to see the picture in itself and how just something like that could be so creative and so cool looking at the same time, you know?
Yep. That was a blast. Those were
and then I kept thinking, Zach, that'd be
how much time is going to get to
clean up.
And actually, it was not bad at all. She said, I had to help her to the shower, and we had a shower like 8 feet away from where we were shooting. But she said as soon as the hot water hit it
melted
all melted away.
Okay.
And from a cleanup perspective, what you can't see in the pictures is her holding a giant bowl right out of frame.
So it drips down.
So it drips and catches most of it. So I do want to do one of those again. I just got to organize it with this group. But we've done black light. We've done, you know.
Those are cool. I've seen those.
Yeah.
Black light photos. Those are cool.
And again, it's whatever you want to do. You know, you want to be conservative. I don't care.
I have friends.
You have friends?
Yeah. Well, they're not really.
Are they named John?
They're side friends.
They're side hustles.
They're not call you on the side of the road.
Oh,
friends, but no, they're side friends.
Acquaintances.
But they do photo shoots a lot. It's two girls. They as a pairing do photo shoots.
Oh, sure.
And I always think about that when I see theirs, is that they have so many different like ideas for photo shoots.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of blows my mind because there are some of them that I've seen that I'm like, I would like that's cool, but I wouldn't even like
Think
have
of that.
thought about that.
Yeah.
And I just think about that a lot, and I've told Cheryl that a lot because I've done a couple, just me and her. But I think about that a lot of just that's interesting to me. Just the thought process behind like, oh, I wonder if we could do this, and then seeing it and being like, oh shit, like that was.
Yeah, I'm always looking for ideas. Like I follow my Facebook feed is such a mess. It's funny because you'll see I follow a bunch of boudoir groups and a bunch of boudoir photographers, and so you'll see one picture of somebody in lingerie, right, going through my Facebook feed, and then the next time you'll see, whatever you post a picture of your food, right?
Yeah.
And then like I used to, for my friend who used to work at the studio, I always joked my recommendations were all messed up too, because I would help her look for outfits for shows.
Mhm.
So then I'm looking for weird outfits, and she's sending me links to stuff, and I'm sending her links back, and I'm like, yeah, Facebook has no idea what I look for.
Facebook has no idea.
Yeah, Facebook and Google are so confused at who I am.
This guy's all over the place here.
Just whatever. We don't know. But yeah, I don't know how we came to the huggy suit. Amy was all over that at the time, though. I love those pictures as well.
It's really cool.
Yeah. And it was really just simple background. And literally, my camera, so there was nobody else at that one. So, to John's point, Amy's kneeling on the floor. I have the camera on a tripod, taking pictures automatically, and I'm pouring the honey on her because we didn't have another person to help.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got for you, John.
All
Unless
right.
you got something else you'd like to spill the beans about.
No, I think we're good.
Good.
I gotta have some things in reserve in case I have to come back for some reason.
Did you?
In case you're the only friend that he has.
Yeah,
Could be.
I don't know. Lori was in the background clapping because she doesn't want to have to come back multiple times.
That's not true. I want you to come back.
Oh,
Did you enjoy yourself?
Yes, I did.
Good. Is it hard talking about yourself?
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
I told Cheryl that.
It's the only thing I know.
I told Cheryl that when we were doing ours yesterday. I was like, it's so weird to me. I talked to you when you were talking about doing this in the first place. I was like, I think it's a good idea because you do this all the time anyway, like when you're out at bars or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was telling her, I was like, it's so weird for me.
I should have offered drinks, John. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're normally drinking when we're
That's true.
but it's like 10 o'clock.
So,
but yeah, but I was saying that it's so weird for me because I know what I'm getting when I talk to you. I know what I'm getting when I talk to Cheryl. So it's a lot easier for me to talk about myself. Like I say that, I've said that in both our podcast now. I'm very honest about who I am. I really don't hold a lot of things back because I really don't care what people know about me. But I told her, I was like, but also I have that confidence because all I'm talking it to you and her, so it's not really.
you don't realize that other people are listening.
I'm an introvert by nature, so I get it. Work is way different. I'm an extrovert at work. I'm an introvert outside of work.
But I think this is, I don't know, I think this is helpful. I think the environment you have here.
You like this?
The point, yeah, I still think the pitch needs work. I think come over to my house and talk with me isn't a good pitch.
By the way, that light is on it after the whole fact.
Yeah.
See, I've done the light. I think I told you this. That light shows up as a glare in my TV.
The aesthetic already
Planned out, but oh well. Once again,
Say goodbye yet?
do I need to shut it off now?
Oh, no, I will shut it off for you. Is what I was gonna say.
You can say goodbye now. So
Goodbye.
Thank you for watching John's Joint. Per my son, I will try to come up with a better sales pitch than come over to my
If
house.
your goal is to get Aaron Rodgers to sit in your living room, I don't think come over to a strange guy's living room and talk to me is a good thing.
I understand that. I look at it as look, I got this garage that's connected right here. You can just pull in your Ford pickup, Aaron, into the garage. I could shut the door. Nobody would know you're here. You can hang out with us for a couple hours. We're not going to talk bad about any football crap because who cares? And then you can leave. See, it's that simple.
Also, have you, not to keep this going any longer, but also, have you seen his interviews as of like the
Oh yeah,
last few
oh
years?
yeah, I have.
Dude, he doesn't give a fuck.
I know.
He talks about
And
whatever.
you know, in defense of Aaron Rodgers
He doesn't
too.
get dressed anymore, does he?
In defense of Aaron Rodgers too, I'll say this. I've heard so many people say, "Oh, that guy is whacked." You know, he's on ayahuasca. You know, and he's going into
I
some
just don't think he cares.
dark retreat, and he doesn't. And you know, I have a friend like that. You know, a very, very good friend like that. And I think, no disrespect to anybody, but I think people that bitch and don't understand are people that are down here. And you know, maybe you should try to do something up here. I'm not advocating drugs by any means, but like I never knew of this 4-day dark retreat.
Mhm.
Who knows if you could find yourself and come out a better person,
Oh, man,
but you would never know until you tried.
You want to hear something?
So who are you to judge?
Listen to Ron White's ayahuasca experience. That is like,
Ron White?
yeah, Ron White. That's how he stopped.
But you know, I have a friend who at one time was doing earth ships
Mhm.
out in I think Arizona, and you gotta go, oh, that's kind of, but then you kind of go, okay, well, if that's your gig, then that's your gig. And again, who am I to judge what you like? You know,
And what I say this with caveat, but who's to say that that is a negative thing? Obviously, I'm not going to say try every drug on the planet just to see how it affects you.
yeah,
But the ayahuasca thing specifically, it has been proven that it doesn't long term affect you.
yeah,
Like it's not like heroin where like
yeah,
you want to do it all
yeah.
the time. And who's to say that you're not? And Aaron Rodgers said this in his interview that you come out a different person, or at least have a different perspective.
Yeah.
And that's everybody that I've seen that has done it. That's what they said. Not everybody has had the life changing. I'm going to be a completely different person. At least get you through stuff, and I don't see how that's a bad thing. The same way as an alcoholic getting sober and realizing
Yeah.
that they had behaviors that were toxic to them and
Yep.
stopping them after they get sober. I
Yep.
feel like it's the same basic concept. But we look down on something that we don't understand as well, nobody should do
So
that.
I was
weird for doing that.
I was laughing as you were saying that because nobody judges or preaches about the alcoholic that came out the other side and says, I have beat this. I'm so happy and blah blah blah. And nobody says, well, that's kind of strange. You were an alcoholic and now you're not. Why would you ever do that? Whereas, hey, I'm this and I wanted to try ayahuasca and now you're judging him.
But they do say about recovering alcoholics, oh my gosh, before they were a recovering alcoholic,
They were so much fun.
They were so much fun. They preach about it all the time. Now
Oh, man. We can. Okay.
Now they say that about me, John.
We're not.
Same thing.
We're not going to do this because it's going to take a whole lot longer.
This is
But
another subject.
I really do want to talk to you about this because that's one of my biggest pet peeves with people who either stop drinking or become sober. Is that we are so, as a society, we are so focused on that being a social thing that we look at people that are sober or recovering alcoholics like lepers. Like, why would you ever do that? Or are you sure? That's the one that gets me. Is when you have somebody like Cheryl quit drinking. It had nothing to do with she was an alcoholic. It had nothing to do with health issues. She got to a point where the hangovers were too much, and she was like, I can't do this anymore. But every time we go out, that's always the thing that she gets is, oh, well, did you have a problem? Oh, well, what happened?
Oh, did Zach tell you can't drink anymore?
Yeah, you're not. It's so looked down on, but people that get trashed and get in, like, pass out in the middle of the street, we don't say shit. Nobody says shit.
Or
about
throw up in the middle of bars.
Or
Whatever.
Oh my god, that's so bad. I knew at the moment that it happened too. I was like,
That moment reminded me of
this is a bad.
that, Lori. That moment, Zach threw up in the middle of Stadium View.
Right.
Why don't you just leave it?
Right when we got out of COVID too. That was the best part about that. They just opened the bars back up.
I can't remember the quote, but I'm sure you will. And Lori, that moment when you were that close to getting sick, before you got sick, all I could think of was Billy Bob.
When you were, puking rally. Yeah. When,
Are you fixing to call a dinosaur, or is that dinosaur or whatever?
Yeah.
I think I might get.
I remember that because I've told you this story before. The TVs is what got me. I looked up at the TVs, the whole room spun super fast, and I knew that there was no coming back. But then, right after that happened, and I made that realization, is when you turned to me and was like, "Are you gonna be okay?" And I was like, "No, absolutely not."
Security did not like him that night.
No, because like I said, we had just gotten out of COVID. They had just opened the bars up, and then I threw up all over the. Yeah.
And I was biting my tongue, John, not being the dad, because I think a friend of his across the bar a little ways was like challenging him. And all I wanted to do was go, "Are you sure you should be doing this?"
Okay. See, and that was
You've been drinking this much beforehand. Are you sure you want to keep
since noon?
Yeah.
Because that was when Kimberly was trying on her
Dress.
her wedding dress. So we were at the bar while they were doing that. We were drinking since noon.
I didn't realize the wedding dress try-on was so stressful.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't realize they had to like drink.
Well,
we were trying our.
Well, my
Yeah,
thought
I was
process.
gonna say, you probably needed a drink.
Hey, in defense of us, we did eat lunch.
That's true. My thought process at the time, and I understand that this is like alcohol thought process, but my thought process at the time was he was challenging me because I was giving him shit because he had the same drink for 2 hours. And so I was giving him shit. I was like, "Are you actually going to drink that? You're just going to drink like half of it." He was challenging me to go shot for shot. So my thought process was, I'll do one of the plastic cups of straight Jack, like all the way up. So that's like a quarter bottle of Jack in just one. And my thought process was, if I do that, he's not going to want to do another one. But he did. Because he also had the same thought process after I challenged him to that one. Because I was like, "Okay, what do you want?" And he's like, "Let's do another one." And I was like,
I assume you see the flaw in this reason.
Yeah.
Well, now he
I
does.
was gonna say, I see it now.
But at that time, he's going, "Got to beat that competition."
That's not true. The moment that he was like, "Yeah, let's do another one," my brain went, "Ooh, that's a bad idea." But also, you can't say no. So.
Okay, sorry, we went off on a rant there.
Sorry.
So now you can shut the camera off.
Yes, now we can say goodbye.
Now we can say goodbye. I don't have a beans. I love, if you've ever listened to his podcast, his wife Cheryl has this, and I don't even know where.
Sing it, Zach.
And I love that she does it.
Beans and cornbread. It's a commercial.
Oh, and it's so cute to listen to her, and I got no closing. Maybe I said I need a closing too.
So-
You're not a closer. You're not a closer.
So-
He's not
Not a closer.
All right, have her record it, then you can play it on the big TV as a close.
Oh, that's true.
Here's Cheryl to bring down the show.
So I'll
out
close
the show.
this.
Sorry, that came out wrong.
I'll close this. If anybody is still listening, I'll close this by saying it's a lot of fun coming and hanging out with us and talking.
It's not as creepy as it sounds.
It's not as creepy as Zach makes it sound. So come on over and have fun with us and chat for a while. And we got some alcohol around here or something. And
Not that you need to.
not that you need to,
if
but
you want to.
sometimes it makes it easier for people. Thank you for coming to John's Joint. John, thank you so much for coming to John's Joint.
You did great.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it the second time since I
Yeah.
screwed up the first time.
yeah, you knew all the answers.
I did.
Good.
So feel free to come back anytime,
Sure.
and you can shut it off now. Thank you.